Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving into something that I think is on a lot of people's minds right now. It's how to make that money work harder,
Mhm.
especially when it feels like, everything's getting more expensive. I mean, seriously, have you seen grocery prices lately? It's enough to make anyone like super anxious about their finances. And that's where this article we're looking at today comes in. It's called Seven Passive Income Ideas to Boost Your Salary in 2025. It's by Rachel Wells. And she starts off with this statistic that really just kind of hit me. She says that only 1 in 17 workers can actually afford to save for their future. 1 in 17. That's not a lot of us. And Wells really digs into why those traditional jobs just aren't cutting it for a lot of people these days, and why more folks aren't, starting those side hustles, even though it seems like everyone's talking about them. But what really caught my eye was this list of passive income ideas, ways to earn money without, constantly trading your time for it. But before we jump into those specific ideas, I wanted to get your take on something. The article kind of paints this, pretty bleak picture of the current financial landscape. People are struggling to afford even just basic necessities. So is this the new normal? Are we all just supposed to accept this?
It's definitely a trend that should concern us. Rising living costs, you see, stagnant wages, and most people not having enough in savings for emergencies. All of that is creating this perfect storm for financial stress. And it's not just a temporary thing. This is like a systemic issue. And we need to find a different approach to earning and being more financially stable.
Yeah, the article cites this Resume Now survey of over 1,000 professionals in the U.S. And honestly, the numbers are pretty terrifying. 12% say they often can't afford basic living expenses. Like we're talking food, housing, the essentials. And then another 24% say they're struggling to cover those same things. And on top of that, over half, 55%, feel like they're being paid less than what they're worth. So it's no wonder everyone's stressed, right? There's this quote in the article that really just stuck with me. It says, "What was a given for boomers buying a house in your early 20s is now considered a luxury." Huh. I mean, wow. Has the American dream just completely changed? Like, what are the implications of that for just, everyday people like us?
You've hit on something really important there. The economic landscape. It's like it's gone through this huge shift over the last few decades. Globalization, automation, and even the rise of this whole gig economy. I mean, all of that has completely reshaped the way we think about work and the way things used to be with that stable 9-to-5 job. It just doesn't have the same weight it used to.
So people are really feeling the pressure. And the article talks about some of the ways people are, trying to cope with all of this. Almost a third of people are turning to debt just to cover those basic expenses. Another 29% are making this huge decision, and they're moving to cheaper areas. And then there's a huge chunk of people who are relying on family or government assistance. It's like 44% relying on family and 38% relying on the government. So I got to ask, are these just Band-Aid solutions, or is this the reality that we all just have to learn to deal with?
I'd say they're more like stopgap measures. They're not a solution for the long term. Because debt, well, that can trap you in this cycle of just making payments over and over and moving away from your support systems. I mean, that can be really isolating. And relying on other people for money, well, that's not really a path to becoming more independent financially. I mean, these approaches can help with the pressure you're feeling right now, but they don't really get at the root of the issue, which is being able to make enough money in this new economy that we're all a part of.
Right. So what are we supposed to do? The article mentions these side hustles and passive income as these alternatives. But if they're so great, why aren't more people doing them? I mean, you'd think with everyone struggling that these things would be booming right now.
Well, that's where things get really interesting. This MBO Partners report that's mentioned in the article shows that more people are actually becoming full-time freelancers. But the number of people who are employed and have an additional income stream, that number is actually going down. So more people are going all in on freelancing and making that their main gig. But fewer people are adding a side hustle on top of their regular job.
So people are ditching the 9-to-5, but they're not necessarily embracing the side hustle. Why is that? What's stopping people from, exploring those other options?
Well, our article identifies 4 main reasons. The first one is just lack of time. People just don't feel like they have the time. And then they're so focused on just paying those immediate bills. And then there's this whole misconception that you need a ton of money to get started with something new. And then finally, people just don't really understand how freelancing and passive income actually work. It all comes down to just feeling overwhelmed, feeling misinformed. And to be honest, just feeling kind of intimidated by the whole thing.
Yeah, I get that. It's like you're already drowning and then trying to learn this whole new way to make money. It's just too much. But that's where passive income comes in, right? The article lists these 7 ideas, and at first glance, they actually seem pretty doable. So there's domain investing, creating an app, selling online courses, print-on-demand products, licensing intellectual property, licensing your photography or videography, and then selling monthly subscriptions like templates or newsletters. And those just seem way more accessible than, like, quitting your job and starting a whole business, you know? So am I right? What's the catch? Does it really require less investment and less time?
Well, that's the most interesting part. The article says that these ideas are actually manageable ways to make money without having to quit your job. And you don't have to have all this money up front or spend a ton of time on it. And that's a huge draw for people who are already feeling stretched too thin.
Okay, so less risk. And you might not have to spend as much time on it. I'm already intrigued. So what are the big selling points of passive income in general? Why is it so appealing, especially right now with the economy the way it is?
One thing is scalability. You can actually grow these income streams over time. And for the most part, they're self-running once you set them up. So that frees up your time to do other things. They're also pretty beginner-friendly, so you don't have to have years of experience to get started. And I think most importantly, you can adapt them to your interests and your skills. I mean, that's a big one, right? Doing something you enjoy instead of just another job that you hate.
Absolutely. And the article also mentioned that it could help you grow your career. So it's not just about making a few extra bucks. It could open up some bigger opportunities down the road. I mean, think about that. Boosting your income without having to quit your job. And you're learning new skills along the way. I mean, what could that do for you? What kinds of doors could that open?
That's an amazing question for everyone listening to think about. Just imagine the possibilities. You could pay off debt faster, have a little more breathing room financially. You could actually pursue those dreams that you've been putting off. It's all about taking control of your finances and creating a life where you have more freedom and opportunities.
Okay, I'm definitely on board with this concept. So we've talked about the problem, all those money anxieties that so many of us are feeling, and we've touched on the potential of passive income as like this solution. But before we wrap up this first part of our deep dive, I want to dig into those 7 passive income ideas. Like, what are the specifics? What are the pros and cons of each one? And most importantly, how do they actually work in the real world?
I'm excited to break those down. Each one has like its own little quirks and potential pitfalls, so it's important to understand what you're getting yourself into before you just dive in head first.
Okay. All right, let's do it. All right, so we've laid the groundwork. Now let's actually break down these passive income ideas. First up, domain investing and flipping. This one kind of sounds like gambling to me. Is that accurate?
Well, it does have like an element of speculation to it, kind of like real estate. But for website addresses, you're buying up domain names, those web addresses that people type in that you think will be valuable later on, and then you sell them for a profit.
So you're basically vetting that certain keywords or phrases are going to become really popular.
Yeah.
So like if you were lucky enough to snag metaverserealestate.com back in like 2020, you'd be in a pretty good spot right now.
Exactly. It takes a lot of research, and you kind of have to be able to predict trends. But if you can do that, the return on your investment could be huge. It's definitely not for everyone, but there are definitely people out there who've been successful with it.
Okay, so there's some risk involved, but potentially big rewards.
Yeah.
What about creating an app? That seems way more technical. Like you'd need to know how to code to even consider it.
That's actually a really common misconception. Coding skills can definitely be helpful, but they're not always required. There are all kinds of platforms and tools out there now that are specifically designed for app development. Even if you're someone who can barely work a microwave.
Wait, seriously? So you could have this awesome idea for an app, and you could just have someone else handle all the technical stuff.
Exactly. You focus on the concept, the user experience, the problem your app solves, and there are tons of talented developers out there who are looking for cool projects to work on.
Okay, I'm starting to see a theme here. Maybe passive income isn't as out of reach as it seems, but how do you actually make money from an app once it's out there?
Well, there are a few different models. You could charge a one-time fee to download it. You could offer in-app purchases for extra features or content, or you could integrate advertising. It really depends on the app and who your target audience is.
So there's some flexibility there.
Got it. What about selling online courses? It seems like everyone and their dog has one these days. Is that really a viable way to make passive income? Or is the market just completely oversaturated?
It's definitely a popular option, and for good reason. If you have some kind of expertise in something, you can package that knowledge into a course and sell it online. It's a great way to leverage your skills and experience and actually make money from it.
So what kinds of topics are people actually buying courses for? Is it just like business and marketing stuff? Or is there a wider range?
You'd be surprised. People are buying courses on everything, from photography to creative writing to personal development, even like niche hobbies. If you can teach it, there's probably an audience for it. The key is to find your niche. Find something you're passionate about and that you know a lot about.
Okay, so find your expertise, package it up, and put it out there.
Got it. Now this next one, print-on-demand products. I've never heard of that one. What does that even mean?
Oh, it's a really cool concept. You basically design stuff like T-shirts, mugs, phone cases, even tote bags, you name it. But you don't actually have to handle the printing or the shipping.
Wait, hold on. So if I design like a super cool T-shirt with some witty slogan on it,
Yeah.
I don't need to have like a basement full of boxes of shirts.
No, that's the beauty of it. You partner with a print-on-demand company, and they handle all the logistics. When someone buys a shirt with your design, they print it and ship it directly to them. You just handle the creative part, and they take care of the rest.
Wow, that sounds super efficient and way less stressful than having to deal with like inventory and shipping and all that.
Exactly. It's a low-risk way to kind of dip your toe into e-commerce without all the overhead. And the possibilities for customization are huge. You can create designs for all sorts of different audiences and interests.
Okay, I'm liking this one. All right, next up is licensing intellectual property. Can you explain what that means in like normal terms? It sounds very official.
Sure. So let's say you've created something unique, like a really catchy logo, or a piece of music, or even a software program. You can license the rights to use your creation to other people or companies.
So it's like I'm renting out my creative work,
Yeah.
and then I get paid for someone else to use my designs or music.
Exactly. It lets other people benefit from the things you've created, and you earn passive income from the licensing fees. It's a win-win.
That's a pretty cool concept. What about licensing photography and videography? Is that just like using stock photo websites? Or is there more to it than that?
It can be similar, but you might have more control over your work, and you could potentially earn more money. Instead of going through one of those big platforms, you might license your work directly to businesses or individuals and set your own terms and pricing.
So more direct relationships, potentially bigger payouts.
Yeah.
Got it. And finally, the last one on the list, selling monthly subscriptions. What are some like real world examples of this besides those templates and newsletters that were in the article?
Oh, there are tons of possibilities. You could do like subscription boxes that are curated around a specific theme. Or you could offer exclusive content for members only. You could even do ongoing coaching or consulting services. It's all about providing value over time and building up a loyal subscriber base.
So it's about that recurring revenue, having that steady stream of income coming in month after month. That sounds pretty appealing, especially when everything else feels so up in the air.
Exactly. It gives you a sense of stability, and it lets you actually build a community around your work, and the possibilities are endless, which I think is really exciting.
Okay, so we've gone through all 7 passive income ideas. And honestly, I'm feeling way less intimidated than I was when we started. They actually all seem doable, even for someone like me, who isn't exactly like a tech genius or a business mogul. What stands out to you as like particularly promising or interesting?
I think what's really fascinating is how all of these ideas can tap into different skills and interests. So someone who's really good at design might be really successful with print on demand, while someone who's super passionate about teaching might find their niche creating online courses. And you don't have to pick just one.
Right. You could combine a few of these ideas.
Yeah.
And create multiple streams of income. That makes things even more interesting.
Absolutely. Diversifying your income streams can help minimize risk and create more financial stability.
All right, I am pumped about all the possibilities. But let's get real for a second. We've talked about the what. Now let's talk about the how. What's the first step someone should take? If they're serious about actually exploring passive income, where do you even begin? Okay, so we've got all these passive income ideas, and I'm sure you're like me, ready to just jump in and get started. But where do you even begin? It's so easy to get overwhelmed with all the information out there.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I think the first thing is to just take a step back and really understand yourself before you jump into any specific idea. So think about, what are you good at? What do you actually enjoy doing? What resources do you have right now? Like your time, your money, your skills.
So it's not about chasing the latest trend or doing what everyone else is doing. It's about finding something that really fits you. Because let's face it, even though it's supposed to be passive income, it still takes work. especially in the beginning. And you got to stay motivated.
Exactly. Passion and genuine interest are so important, especially when you hit those roadblocks. And you will hit roadblocks. So once you have a better idea of your strengths and what you're passionate about, then you can start researching those passive income ideas that you connect with the most.
Okay, that makes sense. So you've done some soul searching, and you've got a few ideas that you think could work. What's next? Where do you go for reliable information and guidance? Because there is so much out there, it's hard to know what to trust.
Oh, for sure. There's tons of information online, blogs, podcasts, online courses. It can be really overwhelming, I would say. Look for sources that are reputable, read reviews, check out the credentials of whoever's giving the advice.
So do your research,
Hmm.
be picky, and don't be afraid to experiment a little. See what works for you.
Exactly. This is a journey, not a race. And there's no magic formula. What works for one person might not work for someone else.
I like that. It takes the pressure off a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So it's all about taking those small steps consistently and working towards your goals.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of community. Connect with other people who are doing the same thing. Join some online forums. Maybe even find a mentor. You'd be surprised how much support is out there.
You know, that's something I've learned too. Having that support system makes such a huge difference, especially when you're trying something new. Having that encouragement, that accountability, being able to share experiences with other people, it can really keep you going when things get tough.
I couldn't agree more. And as you make progress, celebrate those wins. Even the small ones. Every step forward is a victory.
So true. It's about recognizing how far you've come and staying motivated. But I think it's important to remember that this isn't some get-rich-quick scheme. Building a sustainable passive income stream takes time and effort.
You're absolutely right. This is about building something that has real value. And it takes time. And you also have to remember that passive income is constantly evolving. New platforms are always popping up. Trends change. Technology changes. So you have to stay curious, keep learning new things, and be willing to adapt.
That's great advice. So if we could sum up everything we've talked about today into one takeaway, what would it be?
That's a tough one, I would say. Don't let your money anxieties hold you back. Take action, explore all the possibilities, and remember you have way more control over your financial future than you probably realize.
I love that. That's so powerful. And it really gets at the heart of everything we've been talking about today. So we hope this conversation has sparked some new ideas for you and given you a roadmap to start creating a more secure and fulfilling financial future. As we wrap up, I want you to think about this. What would your life look like if your income wasn't tied to just your job? Which of these passive income ideas speaks to you? And what's one small step you can take today to start exploring it further? Keep those questions in mind as you continue your own deep dive into the world of passive income. Until next time, happy exploring.